Welcome back to Epic Encounters, where we take deep dives into the gaming industry and dissect the latest developments, drama, and controversies. Today we're talking about Ubisoft and their latest headache, the massive backlash surrounding Assassin's Creed, Shadows. Things are unraveling fast for Ubisoft, and it seems like they're teetering on the edge of collapse. The gaming giant, once a major player in the industry, is now facing a potential buyout by Tencent, and rumours of layoffs that could impact up to 40% of their workforce, or around 8,000 people. So what went wrong? And why does this feel like the end of an era for Ubisoft?
Ladies and gentlemen, what this organization really needs. Actually, what this organization really needs is Ladies and gentlemen, what this organization really needs. Actually, what this organization really needs is... Ladies and gentlemen, what this organization really needs.
The fall of a giant. Ubisoft's fall from grace has been years in the making, but the last few months have made it painfully clear how dire things have become for the company. Let's start with Assassin's Creed Shadows, a game that was supposed to revitalise the Assassin's Creed franchise. Instead, it has turned into a disaster. Sales have been dismal, and the game has been panned for its repetitive gameplay, lackluster storytelling, and uninspired mechanics. This was supposed to be Ubisoft's big moment, an opportunity to prove they could still compete with the best in the industry, but instead, it cemented their reputation as a company that's out of touch with what gamers want. Shadows was Ubisoft's attempt to appeal to the modern audience, a phrase that's become synonymous with pushing progressive messages into games rather than focusing on what made the franchise popular in the first place. The problem isn't the inclusion of diverse characters or new perspectives. Gamers are more than open to that. The issue is the heavy-handed approach Ubisoft took, shoving political agendas into a game that's supposed to be about stealth, historical intrigue, and action. It's like Ubisoft forgot what made Assassin's Creed great in the first place. But everything has its consequences. Is this why they delayed Assassin's Creed Shadows for 3 months? They have a very good example, Star Wars Outlaws, which is selling very poorly and has received a ton of criticism. Ubisoft is rumoured to make significant changes to Assassin's Creed Shadows during the 3-month delay the company announced, and will specifically change Yasuke's story and how he's portrayed. Ubisoft officially delayed the game last week, announcing in a press release, Assassin's Creed Shadows will now be released on the 14th of February 2025. While the game is feature complete, the learnings from the Star Wars Outlaws release led us to provide additional time to further polish the title. It added, this will enable the biggest entry in the franchise to fully deliver on its ambition, notably by fulfilling the promise of our dual protagonist adventure, with Naoi and Yasuke bringing 2 very different gameplay styles. According to Tom Henderson of Insider Gaming, the polishing of the game includes changing some of Yasuke's story and how he's portrayed in the game, fixing architectural details, and ensuring that the game is historically grounded while fitting into the Assassin's Creed universe. Now gamers are pushing back, and the backlash is growing louder by the day. Just take a look at any of the forums or Reddit threads discussing Assassin's Creed Shadows. Players are furious. They feel like they've been duped into buying a game that's more concerned with lecturing them on morality than providing an immersive experience. Another terrible flop I mentioned before is Star Wars Outlaws. A new rumor claims that Ubisoft only sold 1 million copies total for Star Wars Outlaws, far lower than analyst expectations of 5 million. This rumor comes from Grant Taylor-Hill at Insider Gaming, who reports, "We have secured a current sales figure from sources close to the game. At this time, Star Wars Outlaws has just ticked over 1 million sales worldwide." As noted by Hill, Assassin's Creed Mirage reportedly sold 5 million copies after 3 months. This appears to be even worse than initial reports. Games industry writer Christopher Dring noted that according to the UK sales chart that Star Wars Outlaws had done about half of Assassin's Creed Mirage. It is also clearly significantly lower than what market analysts were expecting. Barclays' Nick Dempsey suggested that Ubisoft would sell around 5 million units back during the company's Q1 2024 sales report in May, and he thought that number was conservative, given Ubisoft's bullishness on the game, despite multiple warning flags that the game was in trouble. Dempsey asked, "When I look at the guidance for Q2, and if I assume something similar for back catalogue in Q2 as Q1, kind of getting to 200 million euros to 230 million euros, that sort of range. For the new release Star Wars Outlaws, when I look at the $70 price, and then assuming what you might get from it, I'm getting to around 5 million units. Something in that sort of bracket. First of all, where could I be going wrong with that thinking? Secondly, are you just being pretty conservative in your guidance? Because I guess given the interest in that game, we might have thought it would be more than 5 million units. This extremely low number makes sense, given Ubisoft's recent press release significantly lowering its expected net bookings for the second quarter down from 500 million euros to 350 euros, 370 million, a 30% decline. In fact, it lowered its entire yearly net books to around 1.95 billion euros, and around break-even non-IFRS operating income and free cash flow. Another nail in Ubisoft's coffin is Skull and Bones. A rumour claims that Ubisoft allegedly spent between from $650 million to $850 million on its AAA game, Skull and Bones games. According to YouTuber Endymion and his sources within Ubisoft, the project that ruined Ubisoft and put them in the dire financial position they are after Star Wars Outlaws' soft sales in the second quarter is Skull and Bones, which he claims cost between $650 million to $850 million. Endymion shared, "I was also told that the project that ruined Ubisoft was not actually Outlaws or Shadows, it was actually Skull and Bones. My sources told me they have seen multiple different versions of the game that were each completely different over the years. They said that they were told that the budget that was spent on Skull and Bones, it ranged somewhere from $650 million to $850 million over 10 years, he added. And that Skull and Bones failed so badly for Ubisoft, it was the actual reason why they're dying the way that they are, he said. It's not actually Outlaws and Shadows if you can believe it. So they sunk a legendary amount of resources into that game, and it clearly did not work out for them at all. Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot infamously described Skull and Bones as a AAA game and attempted to justify the game's price tag of $70 during the company's Q3 sales call for fiscal year 2024 back in February, about a week before the game's release. He was asked by one investor, "Could you, maybe, unpack for us the decision to price it at $70? You've certainly emphasized that it's designed for a lot of live services. What drove the decision to make the game pay to play, when that could presumably limit the size of the player base and thereby PRI in the game?" Guillemot responded, "You will see that Skull and Bones is a fully fledged game. You can see it on the market today. It's a very big game, and we feel that people will really see how vast and complete that game is. It's a really full AAA game that will deliver in the long run." Following the game's release, Tom Henderson at Insider Gaming reported, "The game currently has around 850,000 players total at the time of writing, which includes those who have opted to play the game with the 8-hour free trial provided by Ubisoft." In the same report, Henderson detailed Ubisoft spent around $200 million on the game, and doesn't expect to make it back. The game was released to Steam on August 22nd, 2024, and only hit a peak concurrent player count of 2,615 players. Since then, the game has seen massive fall-off. The most recent 24-hour peak was just 412. That's a decline of nearly 85%.
I declare bankruptcy!
Tencent buyout rumors. As if the disaster of Assassin's Creed Shadows wasn't enough, Ubisoft is reportedly in talks with Tencent for a potential buyout. This is huge news, because if the deal goes through, it could mean massive changes for the company. According to industry insiders like Tom Henderson from Insider Gaming, Ubisoft is considering selling to Tencent to take the company private. That would mean no more stock prices to track, no more public scrutiny, and a lot less transparency about their operations. It could also lead to a significant number of layoffs, potentially up to 40% of the company, or around 6,000 to 8,000 employees. Now, think about that for a moment. 40% of the workforce. That's a staggering number of people who could be out of a job, and it shows just how desperate Ubisoft is to survive. They've been hemorrhaging money with their recent string of flops, Skull and Bones, Star Wars Outlaws, and now Assassin's Creed Shadows. It's clear that something has to give, and it looks like Ubisoft is getting ready to trim the fat in a big way. But let's be real for a second. It's hard to feel sorry for Ubisoft at this point. They've made their bed by constantly pushing games that nobody wants to play. They've ignored their core audience, opting instead to chase trends that have no lasting appeal. Now they're paying the price. A toxic company culture. The problems at Ubisoft run deeper than just bad game design and poor sales. The company has become a toxic environment for both its employees and its customers. We've seen multiple reports of Ubisoft employees walking out or getting laid off because of poor working conditions and internal strife. But the real kicker, some of Ubisoft's leadership still thinks the problem lies with the gamers. Recently, a Ubisoft monetization director took to LinkedIn to express his frustration with the backlash against the company. In his post, he lamented how gamers were laughing at Ubisoft's failures and wishing ill on the company. He went on to say that the gaming industry as a whole is struggling and that gamers are part of the problem for not supporting new releases. Let me break that down. Ubisoft is failing because they're making bad games, and instead of acknowledging that fact, their leadership is blaming gamers for not buying into their woke agenda. It's almost laughable, except that it's sad to watch a once great company spiral into denial like this. The truth is, the gaming industry isn't struggling. Other companies, like From Software, are thriving. Just look at the success of Elden Ring. From Software made a game that was challenging, rewarding, and most importantly, fun to play. They didn't shove political messages down our throats. They didn't lecture us. They just made a great game. And guess what? It paid off. The woke agenda backfires. Ubisoft's obsession with pandering to a modern audience has been their undoing. We've seen this time and time again. Game companies try to shoehorn progressive messaging into their games, only for the games to flop because the messaging feels forced and out of place. Gamers don't want to be lectured. They want to be entertained. They want to escape from the real world, not be reminded of it every 5 minutes. This is where Ubisoft has gone wrong. Instead of focusing on gameplay and storytelling, they've focused on pushing an agenda. It's the same mistake we saw with Star Wars Outlaws, a game that had all the potential in the world, but ended up falling flat because it was more concerned with being woke than being fun. Now, Assassin's Creed. Shadows is following in those same footsteps, and the results are predictably disastrous. But here's the thing. Ubisoft could have seen this coming. The writing has been on the wall for years. Gamers don't want political propaganda in their games. They don't want to be told how to think or what to believe. They just want to play good games. If Ubisoft had focused on that, they wouldn't be in the mess they're in now. The future of Ubisoft. So what's next for Ubisoft? If the buyout by Tencent goes through, we could see massive changes in the company's structure and direction. Tencent is known for being a ruthless player in the gaming industry, and they won't hesitate to make drastic changes if it means turning a profit. This could mean more layoffs, a shift in focus towards mobile gaming, or even the death of some of Ubisoft's iconic franchises. But even if the buyout doesn't happen, Ubisoft is still in trouble. They've lost the trust of their core audience, and it's going to take a lot more than a few patches or updates to win them back. If Ubisoft wants to survive, they need to go back to basics. They need to start making games that are fun, challenging, and engaging. They need to stop chasing trends and focus on what made them successful in the first place. But at this point, it's hard to see Ubisoft making a comeback. They've burned too many bridges, and the damage may be too severe to repair. The gaming industry is moving on without them, and unless they make some serious changes, Ubisoft could end up as nothing more than a cautionary tale about what happens when you forget who your audience is. So what do you think? Is Ubisoft done for, or can they turn things around? Personally, I think they've got a long way to go before they can even hope to regain the trust of gamers. But maybe, just maybe, they'll wake up and realize that they need to start making games for gamers again, not for some imaginary modern audience. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future updates. Until next time, keep gaming and stay epic.
Got lots of drink, a lot of water.
Okay.
I'll just be a second.
Okay.
Oh, I don't believe this.
Oh God, I beg you, please. If you make this water go down, I will sit at your feet and I will serve you for all of eternity. I'll adopt a Somalian kid, or I'll work in Calcutta, or I'll just please just make the water go down. No!
Oh my God!
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!